You guys are listening to the Jordan Garber Now podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Alright guys, welcome to the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Obviously, I am Jordan Garber, and tonight's main event interview is none other than Chance Prophet. We had a little bit of audio issues there in the interview, but we were able to overcome all in the same interview, so it shouldn't be too bad. We kind of fixed it up a little bit. So we look forward to that being our main event interview tonight. And of course, we have Rob Steele, the owner of CNEWA Wrestling, talking about his views and opinions in the pro wrestling world. And of course, kicking things off, I'm going to have Martez Ale, our temporary co-host for the next little while, discuss some news with us. Coming up next on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Are you looking for the best vehicle for your needs at an affordable budget? Well, Hickman Auto Sales and Financing has exactly what you're looking for. Choose from a wide variety of vehicles like the 2012 Hyundai Tucson GLS, the 2016 Chrysler 200LX, and the 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe. All trades are accepted and paid off, and child tax, pension, disability, EI, social assistance, or self-employed are all approved. Low payments of $0 down. For more information, call 204-898-3511 or visit HickmanAutoFinancing.com. Tell them Jordan Garber Now sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and I'm here with a huge part of my success, my show's success, and that's none other than Martez Ale. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty stoked to be on the Jordan Garber Now show. I take this as an honor, and I'm blessed to be with you tonight.
Well, the thing is that the last time we were on a show together, everyone knows and loves it when I say it, we have reached wrestling news headlines when we asked Luke Gallows that golden question, and you also asked him a question about Impact. Both of those questions reached wrestling press everywhere. Looking back upon that, what were your thoughts? Just getting that 15 minutes of fame. Me too. I never got that in a long time. How did you deal with that? That was pretty awesome, man.
Well, honestly, man. First of all, I'm the type of person. I think we all are equal. Okay, but
absolutely
in the line of work that we do, whenever you can get a quote-unquote high-profile entertainer, wrestler, whatever you want to call it, it's a big deal. It's an ego booster. It's kind of a notch up in the right direction for your podcast or your radio show, whatever you're trying to do. But during that interview, man, I was excited. Some interviews I'm nervous, but I was excited because this was the type of interview that can really put you on a map. And Luke was a great guest. He wasn't a diva. He was pretty cool. He answered all the questions with no problem. And hopefully down the road he can come back. So basically, I had a good time talking to Luke Gallows. I had a good time sharing the radio show with you for the time that you were on with us.
And I thank you for that. I was desperate. I was in your DM so fast. I was like, man, come on, man. Yeah, Luke Gallows, we gotta do this shit. I mean, we gotta do this.
What I respect about that, man, you're a go-getter. You have not because you ask not. They teach us that in church. You have not because you ask not. And hey, I'm pretty sure I'll be asking you something down the road, or I already do ask you things, but you got to be able to ask people, what's the worst that I could have said? No. So it turned out well.
Well, I could get you Bruce Hart.
All right.
But,
I'll take whoever.
Hey, you know what? The thing is that we both get to share a network, and the thing is that we experience these cool feats together, and not just that. It's about the love of doing a podcast. Go ahead, sorry.
Man, out of nowhere, I'm just super excited, because that's the part that people have to realize. These are memories that we are sharing with each other. down the road, who knows if we'll be able to get a chance like this again to talk to Lou Gallows, or even just do a podcast on a regular basis. So I believe in cherishing the moments. I don't know. You may move on to go to greater pastures. You know, I may move on to do different things. So that's why I believe in helping others, encouraging others, and just having fun, because you never know when it's over. Because at some point it will end. I hate to say it, but at some point it will end. So I believe in sharing the moment and savoring the moment.
Absolutely, that is for sure. Where are some guests that like you had on your program? Let's talk about the co-hosts first. You know, you have a great variety of talent on your network. You know, this show can be listened to on the network as well. But obviously, you got Wrestle Talk in the D. I love Jed Williamson, amazing voice.
Absolutely.
So all these shows, Wrestle Talk in the D, Gorilla Position, all those other good ones, all of them. Whatever. Fuck. I can't.
Are you smoking right now, man?
I was a little bit earlier, but like, fuck, I didn't expect it. It's crazy because like I woke up this morning. I don't know if you guys want to talk about this quick, but like, I don't even have a lot of it, and I woke up and I was so groggy. It was terrible.
Oh. It was terrible. Okay.
But then I was fine. I just had a glass of water to calm it down, but it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
It's legal, but you know, every place is different. In your perspective, man, you run all these shows, you have all these great co-hosts. How great is that to have that, and how did you discover them?
Oh man, I discovered everybody a different way, and I hate to say I discovered like I hand selected these people, but when I started Open Talk Radio 313 The Flash, I wanted to do it differently than most people. I didn't start off with a huge budget. I still don't have a huge budget, but that's coming down. That's going to come down the pipeline. But I wanted to utilize talent to put people over. In the wrestling business, there's a term called putting people over. So I wanted to put people over that didn't have a place to do their podcast. You know, I have airtime, tons of airtime. So why not come over to my platform and do your show? I always give people freedom to do whatever they want to do. I just ask for the only thing I ask for is not too much swearing or cursing. But that's going to happen here.
Sorry. My apologies.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just saying, you're fine, man. I'm just saying that's what I ask for. Do I always get that? No. Because people are used to swearing, so I can't be mad at that. But anyway, I wanted to utilize this to really help others. Obviously, in helping others and them doing their shows on my platform, it gave me exposure, which I also was looking for. So I look at it as networking. I don't look at it as I'm the boss. I just look at it as I have this, you have that. Let's marry each other. If at some point we don't like each other anymore and you want to have another mate, I understand. So I never put handcuffs on people because I know things change. You know. Things change all the time. Some people may want to stay. Some people may want to go do something else, do something different. So that was my whole thinking when creating this 3 years ago. But there are some different things down the pipeline that I'll be doing in 2021 that will make it be a little bit different. So.
What are like some of the non-sports programs that the people can listen to? You've added a lot. Like you've had some interesting non-sports guests too.
You talking about the shows or the non-sports guests?
Both, actually, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have Talking with Tisha from the D, which is the show that's based out of Detroit. Because most of the shows are produced out of Detroit, but the hosts are in different cities, different states. Excuse me. But Talking with Tisha, that's a show that talks about current events. As well as Welcome to the Spotlight. Welcome to the Spotlight is a show where we like to promote people that are doing something positive in the community, people that are entrepreneurs, people that are entrepreneurs, people that have projects going on. So it's a whole big encouragement fest at Open Talk Radio.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's awesome. I wanna make sure I can be at least on every show once. That's it. That's the goal, man. And I'm trying. I keep forgetting to call into Talking with Tisha for the D.
Yeah.
And like the last thing I'm sure she wants to hear is a Jordan Garber rant. So I'm not gonna call into that. I'm gonna wait a while. But I'm gonna
But that actually would be funny if you do that, man.
we might have good chemistry. You know, I'm from Winnipeg, which is the Detroit of Canada, in a way, and that's a positive as well because it has a big sports scene like Detroit in the States does. So,
Absolutely. Yes. Hey.
like, how's wrestling in Detroit? Like the whole scene altogether. Do you attend any indie shows like things like that? And like, how is the media speculating? Like the whole media about Detroit being dangerous and being rough. Like, is that necessarily true?
Oh man, you asking some great questions, man. I'm glad I said yes to the invitation to come on your show. As far as wrestling in Detroit, you may take my wrestling card away. You may just take it away, but I've never actually attended an indie show in my life. Yes, I'm positive.
Oh my goodness.
Never. I've seen them on YouTube and things of that nature, but I've never seen them. I guess in the back of my head, if it was WWE or not. You know, I didn't, and I told myself at one point, I'm not going to no other show if it's not WWE, but I've since changed that, and I do plan on going to more indie shows because I look at it differently now. You know, I guess I had a negative way of thinking when it came to indie shows. Like they were just, how should I put this? They were less than. That's how I thought about it. But now I realize these indie wrestlers are just as good as these WWE wrestlers. And once this pandemic slows down, I'm ready to go and finally experience an indie show. I can finish answering your other questions. I don't know if you want to chime in on that, but I can.
Well, you bring up the pandemic. How long do you see that lasting? Do you see that lasting like 2 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, or 90 years?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know. I don't want to be this guy to try to predict the future, but I will tell you this: as I'm getting ready to contradict myself, the world is changing. The world is different. I don't think we'll ever go back to being the same, and I'm pretty sure you heard that from people.
It will never be the same again.
Hey, who used to say that? Was that Chris Jericho? Again. He's from up there.
Accent. Do I have an accent to you? You know, you being
big time.
Really?
Yes, you do.
I sound like Southern, or does it kind of sound Southern, or what's it?
No, you sound Canadian for sure.
What's that sound
especially.
Like? Does it sound like Hebrew, kind of? Like, I don't know how a Canadian accent sounds. Like, is it nasally because my voice is nasally? I don't know.
It's different. Just know that I know you from Canada by the way your voice is projecting, if you will. But I'm a big fan of a lot of things Canada. I love the Maple Leafs.
Well, they're terrible, but I love the poutine. Like, they're really good.
That's another thing I've never experienced. Poutine.
They should have it at Burger King in the States. Like, literally, it's fries, like
gravy,
and like cheese curds melted. It's the best thing ever. I could I could order a mean poutine right now. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. I used to work at a restaurant years back, and they used to sell poutines, but it just looked so disgusting to me, and that's why I never would want to order it for myself because it just looked so disgusting. And I'm one of those kind of people where I'm picky about food. Even if I give it the eye test, if it doesn't look right to me, I don't want it. I want it in my mouth.
I don't like Brussels sprouts. You know, they just look like goblin balls. I just like I don't want to put them down. It doesn't appeal to me.
I get it. You know, I just started enjoying cauliflower. Cauliflower.
Have you checked out the Cauliflower Alley Club every single year in Las Vegas?
No. Maybe I'll check into that.
If I win the lottery.
That's right. You'll get there.
Hopefully.
But Yeah. But to answer your question about, I'm not switching subject. I just want to make sure I answer all your questions about Detroit and is it really? Did you ask me? Is it really what the media portrays it to be?
Yeah, like I mean, like certain parts, just like in Winnipeg, there's tons of abandoned houses and stuff like that. Like that part's true, but like there's probably some really beautiful parts of Detroit. I'm sure, right?
Yes, it is, and that's the biggest misconception. It goes to show you that we truly control the narrative. Us in the, I don't know how you feel about it, but I really don't like to say that I'm a member of the media, even though that's kind of the profession I'm walking into and that I'm operating in. But the media really can give you what they really want to give you. Yes, is there bad parts of Detroit? Heck yes. Are there ghettos? Are there dangerous neighborhoods? Heck yes. In those neighborhoods, I try not to go into. Living in Detroit, you don't have time to be scared of nobody. That's one thing you got to know. You don't got time to be scared of nobody because anything can happen at any time. However, there's a whole different part of Detroit that they don't show. It's almost a suburban part of Detroit that they don't show. Even the non-suburban areas of Detroit that are nice, they don't tell you about. So they only really tell you about the ghettos and the hoods, who's getting killed on this day, who got killed by who. So yeah, it's a two-way street with that, my friend.
You know what? They have an amazing sports scene, and they do have some amazing neighborhoods and suburbs. That's for sure. But who are some wrestlers that made you like just want to pull the trigger at this podcasting game? Like, there are a lot of wrestlers. There must have been an influence from someone you've watched.
Oh my God, man! I love that you're saying this. Well, it all starts with everybody always probably says this, but Stone Cold, The Rock, all those cats, it really ignited my fire in terms of wrestling. But it wasn't up until 2016 where I had a buddy in a restaurant that I worked in, and all we did was talk about wrestling. So a light came on in my head. I always say, the way I talk, I always say, God gave me an idea, but for the sake of this show, I'm going to say a light switch flipped.
No, it's totally
okay.
Cool. You can say whatever you like, man. I support that stuff, so it's fine.
Appreciate that, man. Because I always say God gave me an idea because I was asking myself, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? Not what I'm good at, but what am I passionate about? And I realized, me and this guy, we used to have this conversation, talk about Monday Night Raw, talk about what was right, what was wrong with wrestling. We used to do it all the time. And like I say, that idea came to my head. Hey, start a radio platform that was just really focused around wrestling, because there's not really platforms that's 100%, not even 75% devoted to wrestling. So I wanted to be one of the first people to usher that in. Now there's going to be somebody else that's going to be better than me, but I can at least say I was one of the few people that got the ball rolling with really focusing on wrestling, because you can't go to any major sports talk radio or any major radio and hear them talk about wrestling around the clock. So I figured that there was an avenue, there was a market for this kind of content, to have different wrestling shows, different weekly wrestling shows every day, just about talking about wrestling. And yes, over this last year, I have expanded outside of just talking about wrestling, but for the most part, wrestling has been the main focus. And like I said, people like Austin, CM Punk, The Rock, NWO, even Vince McMahon were the ones that really gave me the how should I put this, the push to talk about wrestling.
Wow, man. Some very, very well said words. So, you did an interview with Retribution. Did that still follow through with one of the members there?
That's ironic you said it. That interview wasn't done. I didn't do that interview yet. He just canceled on me last night.
Oh,
He said we could do it in. Yep, he said we could do it in a few months because that interview was supposed to be October 29th, this Thursday coming up. But he's a cool guy. He actually came on the show before. So, I mean, his name is D.O. Madden. He came on Wrestle Talking to D like a few weeks back. But that was before he was a part of Retribution. In fact, on that show on Wrestle Talking to D, when he came on Wrestle Talking to D, he denied that he was a part of Retribution. But we know now that he's actually the black guy with the dreads in Retribution. So, but unfortunately, that interview won't happen.
That's unfortunate. What? Jeez, my goodness. When it comes to like working with guys currently signed to the company and having them cancel like things like that, is that sort of like a media issue or a personal issue, or it's a long process to get through that? Is that something you kind of just get through booking emails, or do you go through the agency directly?
No, actually, it's just me and them. I've been blessed. I don't have to go through a third party. I've never had to go through a third party. I just reach out, and I encourage people, just stay persistent. Reach out to these people, and once you start interviewing people that's quote unquote high profile, these other people, they notice that, so they feel more comfortable with coming on your show because hey, you interviewed Rhino. Hey, you interviewed what's his name? Ricky Morton. You interview Luke Gallows. So, yeah, I'll come on your show. It's all about being respectable. It's all about being gracious. So, yes, it's all done by email. I got to the point where I have some of these people direct phone numbers, but I don't hit them up to see how they're doing. And it's all business at this point.
Yeah, I remember, I have Jerry Lawler's number. And, like, I remember.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't say much about that, but like I just remember it being like a situation where it was just like so nervous calling him because you're talking about like a star from like the 60s. No, not the 60s. My goodness, like the star from like the 80s, 90s, Memphis wrestling, and like I'm a mark, like I'm a referee, but like now that I'm a retired ref. I'm pretty much retired because I weigh 130 pounds soaking wet. I used to be 150, but, calling Jerry Lawler, he's like, hey, Jerry. And he was like, who's this? Like, in his, Monday Night Raw tone. And I'd be like, oh, it's Jordan Garber. He's like, who?
What?
And I'm like, Jordan Garber from the Jordan Garber Now podcast. He's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, Jerry, can we do an interview or something? And he's like, get back to me Saturday. I'm currently like just making some dinner right now. And I'm like, okay, we'll call you Saturday. just like what I do at the call center. So that was it. And then I called Jerry back, and there was no answer. So yeah, it was. It's hit or miss, and it's funny how these stories. Like I called Abdullah the Butcher once. Abdullah the Butcher went wild on. See, now I try to contact him for an interview. He'll never reply. But like 5 years ago, he said, "I'm looking to do media," all in caps, saying looking to be on podcasts. So I message him. He just bombs my phone. Facebook calls me, and then he's like yelling at me. He's like, you gotta pay this much money for a fucking interview, you asshole, you think. Oh my goodness. So, I didn't have good luck with Abdullah the Butcher. And then who else? I called Jerry Lynn. Like, he was pretty nice. But he did, and then Hardcore Holly is another guy who refused to do an interview, but in the nicest guy ever. I'm still a friend to this day. Because he doesn't want to sit down and like do that because like he's one of those guys that protects the business, right? And there's certain guys that are like that, and I try to promote as much as my interviews as I can as a work as opposed to a shoot. But I just feel like I like to give away some good parts and promote the most important ones. But anyways, what else is striking your eye in wrestling news? Let's just kind of cover that quickly and go through that. What's gone through your mind there?
Oh man, that's a good question. I really want to I really want to say this, and I'm gonna get into some other things, and I'll say this on a few shows that I'm on throughout the week. But WWE is not the WWE of yesteryear. It's not the WWE of the late '90s. Okay, but I do think people, and you may disagree with me, which may be okay, but WWE gets too much of a bad rap these days. Yes, are the storylines not that great all the time? Yes, they don't always give us great content, but I still feel like WWE is still at the top of the food chain. WWE is still top dog, and I think without WWE, wrestling wouldn't be where it's at today, obviously. So I wanted to say that because I feel like WWE gets too much of a backlash. But I'm not saying they don't deserve it most of the time, but I just feel like it's an open season on them. Everybody's taking shots at them. It's one thing to disagree with what they do, but it's another thing to take random shots at WWE. That part I don't like. So I wanted to say that to us to start this off. Right now, I'm a big fan of what MVP has done since returning to WWE television.
Absolutely. Big money. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. He's also one of the nicest guys. I reach out to him a lot, and he always tell me I would, but you got to go through WWE officials and da-da-da-da.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of hard.
That's personal. We don't go through that. I know that whole process, and that's nothing we need to go. It's not the Martez Ale in-depth interview. Like, you know what? I respect the guests you get, just like you probably respect the guests that I get. And when we work together sometimes, it's just awesome. And you know what? I'm not saying you're welcome anytime. I got a big name guests on my show. I'm going to give back just what you gave back to me that time, because wrestling should be about working together and doing this. And I'd love to have you on and discuss news more often because I don't have a co-host. I fired my co-host a year ago.
Man.
Well, because he started hacking into my Facebook page and started switching things up. And then, he put his face on there and he's like, starting things off with a promo from the icon. And it's just like it's the start of WWE Raw or something. And it's like, dude, this isn't this isn't a pro wrestling show. I do promos too sometimes. One time, actually, though, I do remember this was pretty funny. In 2013, I cried. And I said I was leaving pro wrestling podcasting forever, and then I came back the next week. So it was pretty good. I cut some promos myself, but you don't want to overdo it like I did 7 years ago. That's it. That's all I got.
I understand, man.
I did the Tommy Dreamer entrance too, when you left in 09, I'd play his song, the crappy one, not the good one, the worst one possibly produced in his last years. And I was like, thank you. I was like, I don't know how much, how many cigarettes I had. I don't know. It's not
right.
It's crazy.
That's funny, man.
Stay in school, guys. Get an education.
Got to.
I'm 25, cutting promos in my bedroom. I've made it. I'm just kidding. Anyways, man.
You got to believe in yourself.
We absolutely have to. We have the infamous Rob Steele coming up, actually. He's promoting the CNWA show. Unfortunately, it got promoted due to the coronavirus, and he's probably going to, I hate to say it, cut a promo. So I'm going to have to let you go here. What are some ways people can follow you here on social media, whether you're listening from Indonesia, which we have, West Java, Indonesia, India? Just give me 30 seconds. No, actually, I can't do that because last time I talked about my listeners and the countries they were from, they got a lot of negative rap. They're like, no one cares about you. I went through the whole list. It was ridiculous. It's like, you would never do that on your show. What the hell? I mean, oh my goodness, what the heck's wrong with me? So, but I really appreciate you being on and your kind words and everything you've done to help me out.
Yeah, no problem. Can I just say, can you give me 10 seconds to say a few things, please?
Certainly. I will give you some room here.
All right. Well, I just want to take this time out, real quickly because I want to respect your platform. I want to shout out all the hosts that do shows on the platform that we network and collaborate with. You got the Macho Ghost, Steve Air, Southwest Texan, Greg DeMarc, Dominic, Nick Swink, everybody that comes on the show. It's a lot of other people that I'm not naming. I'm drawing a blank, but I want to put them over before I and you too, Jordan Garber. I want to thank you for allowing yourself to come over. How can I forget that? Seriously, because you bring a different element to the game than most. So I'm definitely blessed to have you on. So that's all I wanted to say.
I guess I watch too much of the game Triple H, and I'm just trying to do the best I can to turn that water into podcast excellence.
You right there, man. You coming.
Once again, man, I want to invite you on a personal invitation to be on next week to discuss some news. I want to get you on as the co-host here for a few weeks. What do you say?
I'm down for that. I'm down because we're shutting down next week to be our season finale with all the shows, so I have a lot of free time to be able to do stuff like this. Bit. Yeah, you could teach me a few things.
No, maybe you could teach me a few things. It's not just about wrestling. It's about other kind of topics as well. Like one time I made a 4-cheese frittata, and it was the best thing I ever made. So there's tons of things that we can discuss.
Listen, Mr. Garber, before I get kicked off, I want to do more outside of wrestling topics because there's so much that's going on in my mind. I want to be able to have conversations with someone else that agree and disagree with me, just to talk about certain things that's not related to wrestling. So I'm game.
Absolutely, man. Well, I really appreciate the help, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful rest of your night.
All right, brother. Be safe. God bless.
You too. Before we get into this interview with Kenny Omega, I have to admit, Kenny Omega is a really good guy, and being with him backstage, it really shows that he's a locker room leader and nothing more than a class act. And this is none other than Kenny Omega on Jordan Garber Now, coming your way.
Celebration of the fun and freedom of youth. It's about finding out who you are. Rolling Stone waves that slaps a smile on your face that won't quit. Yeah, it's fun as that. And now, Everybody Wants Some has an incredible score on Rotten Tomatoes.
I beg you to come to this party.
Mentality, adrenaline. Does that mean we go instant? Everybody Wants Some, rated 117 not in in theaters Wednesday.
Great.
I am here with the cleaner Kenny Omega. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you very much.
So I'm from Winnipeg, and you grew up in Winnipeg as well, as you are from here in beautiful Transcona. Tell us how you got your start in wrestling, tell us how you began in Winnipeg and how you got started in the business.
A friend I've been going to school with, he went to my high school, and his friend of an uncle of his was a promoter locally, and he had been out of the business for I think like 10 years or so. But anyway, he was starting back up. He needed young blood. He needed fresh guys, and he was going to offer him a try. He was a wrestling fan just like me, and so he started before I did. Because my parents wouldn't sign the waiver for me. I was into like other athletics like hockey and basketball and stuff. So I was just like the supporter, the fan at that point. I waited 2 years until I was 18, and I did like odd jobs for the company. I did like ring announcing, a little bit of reffing, setting up the ring and all that. I just wanted to be part of the business, but even if I couldn't get in the ring and do matches yet. So when I was 18 and I could finally make my own decisions as a man, I signed the waiver and I trained. And at that time, the company was going under a bunch of changes and we switched ownership. But anyway, long story short, I got my start, and it was all thanks to a high school friend of mine.
So when you got your start, what was the hardest thing about actually going in the ring and performing? Were you nervous before you actually had your first few matches?
Yeah, I was nervous, but my debut actually came as a shock and a surprise. I was working at an IGA that was very close to my house, just like a grocery store. And my friend had pulled up, and he went to the store when I was stocking shelves, and he said, "Hey, we got a ton of cancellations at our carnival show that we have. Or not a carnival show, it's like a softball, like, beer gimmick thingy." And he said that there's an opening. And even though I'd only done a couple battle royals at the time, I could have my debut match if I was able to come to the show. So I told my boss that, hey, I'm coming down with a cough. I don't feel so well, and I got to go home. And I left, and the rest is history. I had my debut match. So it happened so fast that I almost didn't have time to be nervous. So from there on in, I was nervous before every match. But for that one, it was just like, everything went in hyperspeed, so I wasn't able to react. I just had to react. That's it.
So making a name for yourself in Winnipeg and then in other territories, how did you find out that you got the call to WWE Developmental? How did that whole process go?
Well, I was in a training camp in Eldon, Missouri to hopefully get a spot in the dojo of Pro Wrestling CNEWA. And they're located in Japan. I always wanted to wrestle in Japan and make my career full-time there. So for a WWE guy to be there and offer contracts was a surprise to me. And it was treated kind of like a competition, and the WWE contract was the grand prize. So even though I was gunning for the Japanese spot in the dojo, I won the grand prize, which was the WWE contract. And it was, it was a good opportunity, even though I was hoping for something else out of it. But I felt that I would have been stupid had I not taken that. So whatever, I ended up going to developmental. Wasn't my cup of tea, but I don't regret it, and I'm glad I had that experience.
You did have a lot of downfalls that like you brought up before. What were some of the cool experiences that you had being in developmental?
I met a lot of cool people. I think the most important part about being in developmental was the things that I learned that I didn't like. You grow up and you see, the fancy big lights, the camera, the fireworks, the superstars, and I guess you picture this glamorous world and that everyone would just sell their soul to be a part of, and to be backstage behind it all and realize what kind of people they really are, what they're willing to do, and how unglamorous the lifestyle actually is. It opens your eyes to the reality of the situation, and it makes you happy that you know how it was like, so there's not a question of, wow, I wish I knew what it was like to be there. Now I know, and it's not something for me.
So when you're a wrestler, you dream of traveling around the world, and you not only traveled to Japan, but you've made it in Japan, and you've actually became the New Japan Pro Wrestling Junior Heavyweight Champion. Tell us about your overall experience in Japan, and how cool it actually is to actually make it in such a country of great wrestling.
As I mentioned before, my dream was always to be a wrestler in Japan and have a career there, not just visit. I mean, I could have probably retired happy had I just been there once for wrestling, but the ultimate end game for me was to make a career there. And now, I've not only made a career there, but I've almost kind of made a home there too. So to be a permanent fixture out there, to have been a champion in so many different promotions and win so many Match of the Year awards, and to have the ability to speak the language, are they all fucking gone? Oh my fuck. That's unbelievable. Okay, so, where were we? What was I talking about?
Just making it in Japan.
Right, okay, yeah, so, as I was saying, to have done more than what I ever could have expected in Japan, and then continue to feel like I haven't even realized my full potential, that's a great feeling. Sometimes in wrestling, you just have to take whatever work you can get, and I've been there, and I've been there for many, many years, and now to be in the place kind of where I wanted to be, and not only that, but feel like I can still grow, and that I still have options outside of that if I want there to be, kind of leads me to be a very happy person. All I have to worry about instead of my job and my security is my health. So if that's all I have to worry about, then as a wrestler anyway, I'm ahead of the game.
So that's pretty much it. Before we wrap it up though, is there anything else you want to add, or is that it?
People can follow me on stuff if they want. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm not on Instagram yet, but people have been saying I should be on it, so maybe I'll start. But for now, please follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, which I'm not on too much, but I still got it. And eventually, look for me on Instagram. So, see you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you.
Director Richard Limpett brought you the 70s with Days to Get Views. Now he brings you the is out, and now Everybody Wants Some has an incredible score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Thank you to come to this party.
Mentality, adrenaline. Is that what you're going into?
Everybody Wants Some.
And indeed, what a great interview with none other than Kenny Omega on Jordan Garber Now. Kenny Omega is the biggest star in AEW right now. He is on top of the wrestling world and made it in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it's going to be great to see what Kenny Omega has in store for the future. And once again, from everybody listening from Winnipeg to Mexico to the United States to China to India to Australia, from around the world, thank you for listening to Jordan Garber Now, and we'll see you guys next Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You know, with my experience as a wrestling journalist, I've used many podcast providers for my wrestling shows, but nothing has seemed to work. However, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, and Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Alright guys, this is the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and we are here with none other than the man who runs the place himself, the owner of the CNWEA, none other than Rob Steele. Rob, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing fine. How are you, sir?
I'm doing really, really good, and this podcast has had a lot of success when it comes to promoters. Our third most listened to episode is with Mike Davidson. And that was, in the podcast's history, our third most listened to episode. So we really get a good rap with promoters, and some really good conversations get attached to that. But before we talk about your background and what you're all about, CNWEA New Beginnings has been postponed. But it definitely has a great card lined up, and it's even at a new venue. So this is in reference to the Winnipeg show. Kind of tell the fans more about how people can check out that next show, but also what happened at the last show, why people should check out this one.
Well, what happened first is we were originally booked at Sudis Hall, and what happened was because of COVID restrictions, they told us that they were reducing the crowd size to 5 people, so you can't run a show with 5 people. And, we reached out to many venues across Winnipeg, churches, gymnasiums, halls. Most of them were saying you can only have gatherings of 25 people, which is, not enough to put on a show, really. And they said on Monday there's supposed to be more restrictions. Like, I'm not from Manitoba, so, I was just, I looked a little bit up online, and, I kept messaging Danny Duggan. He's been kind of a little bit of a, help to us as a friend. He also is one of our bookers, but yeah, it was just very frustrating. And then we almost had a lead today, but we just had to reschedule after tonight after just, not being able to do it. But we were able to, we'll be removing the show February 21st to the Park Theater, which is an awesome music venue, but I think it'll be really cool for a wrestling show. We have a lot of everybody who's at the New Beginnings show will be at that show probably. And if the border opens, we're hoping to have Short Sleeve Samson there. He's a cotton believer, so he's hopefully he's issuing a challenge out to Wavo Star. So I think that would be an amazing main event.
Absolutely it would. And I remember watching the main event at the last show with Danny Dunn, who's a co-host of Jordan Garber Now, actually. He does the previews with us. And by the way, Rob, great to have you on board doing the previews for the CNWEA. We do have Danny Duggan on board with us to do his show previews. You can hear the next preview on that on Friday, November the 6th. I believe that's when they're in Winnipeg next. So you can hear that preview right before CWE, giving CWE fans a place to listen to, and same with the CNWEA. But from your perspective in wrestling in Alberta, like, what motivated you to come up with this revolution that you started here?
Well, It actually dates back to about 2006. I had inquired with other promoters about maybe putting on a show, and I do have a little bit of a background in helping out. I helped a little bit with RCW with some events with like guys like Jesse Neal and Tommy Dreamer, so I have a little bit of experience in wrestling, but mostly my background has been music. I've been a music promoter for about 15 years, mostly in the Christian industry. I've worked with a lot of the top Christian acts like Skillet and Icon for Hire and um, the Manifest, like the list, Kairos, who was a big name out in Western Canada for many years, just and a lot of I did every style, like from folk to hip hop to scream, deathcore. There was a lot of Christian bands of different genres. Shows pretty much anywhere from to bars to churches to nightclubs to gymnasiums, you name it. That's where I ran.
Talk about the influence on wrestling. Who are some wrestlers that you watched that just made you pull the trigger on your project?
Well, I've been a wrestling fan since the '80s. Yeah, I'm kind of dating myself. I grew up on the Jim Crockett wrestling. I actually was a kid and used to watch All Star Wrestling in Cloverdale, back in the '80s, and I actually used to watch Stampede Wrestling back in the day with Brian Pillman and Owen Hart and Chris Benoit. And, just been a lifelong fan, and I've just been privileged. My dad had a satellite dish, so I grew up watching AAA and ECW and Smoky Mountain and USWA, and I still have a lot of those programs on old VHS tapes. So just a lifelong fan. Been to a lot of indie shows in the past and a lot of WWE fans. And my dad's a lifelong fan. He grew up with Stampede Wrestling. So did my grandma. So it's kind of like a 3-generational thing with being a hardcore wrestling fan. And my dad's been a pastor for 40 years. We've had lots of wrestlers speak in our church, like Jake the Snake Roberts and Ted DiBiase and a few others do outreaches for us. So I don't know. I just thought I would maybe start a project here in Canada, because I don't think anyone's ever started a Christian wrestling type outreach, and there's a lot of great talent, even up and coming talent that are believers. So it's a nice showcase of that type of talent.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That's for sure. Now, who are some guys to watch here in the CNWEA that people could check out in February? Who are some guys that you gotta buy a ticket and that you gotta see?
Oh, well, definitely Wavell Star. I think he's pretty much the Randy Orton of Western Canada. The guy was an OVW, WWE, contractor wrestler back in the day. There's a legend that it was him that was supposed to go to SmackDown in 2005, but Tatanka took his spot. And we also have
true. Yes.
And then we also have great guys like Mentolo, who's probably has been an international star for 20 years. We have Danny Duggan, who I think is probably pound for pound, one of the best wrestlers in all of Canada. And we also have Jude Dawkins, who has great promos, who has a bright future in this business. He's actually personally one of my favorites, and he's actually one of the nicest guys behind the scenes I've ever
absolutely.
done. Just completely professional, and one of the best guys I've ever met ever in this industry.
And you can just tell by Jude Dawkins that he just loves it, man. He just loves it.
Oh, yes. Just passionate. Just loves wrestling. Cuts the best promo. He's very humorous. He's got a great character going right now. I think in the next couple of years you'll either see him in Impact or OVW or Impact Wrestling or Ring of Honor, any of the big leagues.
Maybe, perhaps, too. You think?
Mm-hmm.
Japan, possibly the rise for Jude Dawkins. I say in the next few years. Rob says, another major promotion. I say that he's one of the top guys in the pool right now. And with Tyler Colton as well being up there.
Mm-hmm. And Tyler Colton will be working for us in the near future. Same with TLC, Tommy Lee Curtis. I'm a big fan of him, too. He's a great worker, too.
Former Jordan Garber, now interviewee.
Even Kevy Chevy, he's hilarious in the ring. He's like the Western Canada Samoa Joe, and we have AJ Sanchez and Kevin O'Doyle, who I think per pound are probably one of the best tag teams of all of Canada, not just Western, but all of Canada.
No doubt about that. AJ Sanchez and Kevin Doyle have definitely made a name for themselves on the map, especially with Kevy Chevy and AJ Sanchez once claiming that as well as the big sexy beast. So you're talking about some of the best talent you have to offer, even some young stars that were also on the podcast. Shout out to Scott Ripley, Sean Martins, and Mitch Clark. Those guys too, all very impressive.
Yes, and we have a wonderful women's division too. We have Kat Von Hees, who's
The
our women's
champion.
champion, and we have Alex Zwicker, and we're going to be doing a show in New Year's, December 31st, and we have a veteran coming. She was Sexy Samantha. I forget what she calls herself now, but she was
Sexy
in Monster.
Sam, I think it's still now.
Sexy Sam. Yeah, she'll be taking on Kat Von His at our New Year's show, so that will be an amazing women's match.
And will that be in Edmonton? Or sorry, will that be in Alberta or will that be in Manitoba?
We're going to be just because of the COVID thing, we're going to try to focus in the Alberta market for a couple months.
There
We're
are lots
taking,
running there right now too, which is interesting. It seems like
yeah,
the hottest market in Canada right now.
yeah. In December, we're going to be in a little town called Killam. It's just a little town about 20 minutes outside of Camrose, about 1,000 people, but we know that there's a strong church community there, and the mayor will be there and everything from their town. So I think we'll get a really good crowd for that. And then in January, we're going to be in Red Deer, and we have a kind of an interesting main event. Jude Dawkins will be taking on a wrestler called Stone Rockwell. He's appeared on Impact a few times. He's kind of does this explorer type gimmick.
Okay.
And we also have the debut of Jeremy Prophet, who is one of the best wrestlers in all of Quebec right now. He's been, if you're ever familiar with Hannibal TV, he's been on there a lot, and he's one of the top talent in all of Quebec and Eastern Canada. He's a believer, and he's hoping to be at our show in January too. So that will be an amazing show too, I believe.
Well, I'm requesting right now. I am requesting right now an exclusive CNWEA interview with Jeremy Prophet. Right before the show, I want to do a preview show of your Alberta events as well, for sure. That's for sure, because you definitely put wrestling in Alberta on the map. Who are some guys that you interacted with in the company so far in CNWEA that were just an amazing blast to work for, whether that was wrestlers or behind-the-scene guys like me?
Well, one guy that's supposed to be working us down the road is Gabriel Oman. He's a great talent. I've had a lot of conversations with him. He's a great guy. Jack Fry from Alberta will be doing our shows once this COVID thing, and he's able to get a time from his shoot job. But and the Canadian Goose is actually supposed to, once he's a little bit healthier, he's supposed to come work for us and do some shows. So there's a lot of guys from Alberta you'll probably see popping up in Manitoba in the next few months doing shots.
No doubt about that. Now, where do you see your project going in 5 years? Like, where do you want to be?
Well, we're actually, this is a little bit exclusive. We're actually going to be going all across Alberta and some stops in Saskatchewan over the next 6 months. We're actually booked already at some Bible colleges and schools over the next 6 months. So
right on.
we're going to be invading a lot of college town markets and stuff. We're going to be in Medicine Hat, Sexsmith, just north of Grand Prairie. We're going to be in Three Hills, Alberta, because they have a huge Bible college there. Hopefully we're going to go to Caronport, Saskatchewan, and Edson, Saskatchewan. Those are all college towns, so kind of looking at the college market.
Well, that's really excellent. It's great to provide shows to all such amazing communities, and it's important that nowadays people do good things and people do good deeds. Whether that's certain things people believe in, things people love, people just gotta learn how to be nice to each other. And you know what? I'm learning that myself. I'm totally guilty, and I learn that every single day. But it's important that people just treat each other with respect and love. And these communities are basically role models when it comes to that. And when it comes down to having shows in those areas, the crowds, they definitely deserve it. They deserve a good shows. So hopefully you guys get a great reception.
Yeah, and we have a lot of good talent interested in coming in for shows. We have Kenny Bowen, former manager of OVW.
Oh, is that right? That's interesting. He was on the show here.
Yeah, he's actually a personal friend of mine. We talk all the time, and I've appeared on his show a couple times, and he actually interviewed
I owe him $60, but I'm gonna pay it back. I'm sorry, Kenny. Money's tight. He wanted me to pay him for an interview, and I don't know if he was ribbing me or not. So I didn't. I don't know.
I think he's ribbing you because I think he was ribbing you. He's a bit of a practical joker, but
maybe he gets the PayPal page and he even messaged me the next day about it. So I think we're cool. We're still talking to each other, so I'm sure it's fine. If he wants his money back, ultimately I'll send it. But I haven't heard anything, so I'm not going to send it.
Yeah. Yeah, Yeah, he's supposed to come to Canada sometime, and he's going to be coming with former WWE Tag Team Champion Rico, who's actually a believer himself.
Yes, Rico Constantino. He's gone through quite the journey and quite the path. That's very
Mm-hmm.
exciting news. Hopefully, we can get him on the show sometime soon.
He would do it for free. He's an absolute wonderful guy, and actually, he's just recently joined the Las Vegas Police Department again, but this time working as I think he's either a lieutenant or a captain, so he's quite high ranking actually.
Good for him, man. Good for him. That's amazing. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
and a few other guys you might show up as like Chase Owens or Matt Stigma. We've also been talking to the Dark World Order, who just live here in Canada. They're hoping once the AEW lets them, hopefully they can come into Winnipeg or Calgary and make a shot there. So that would be a great main event. Dark World Order against either against Sanchez or Kevin O'Doyle. That would be a main event anywhere.
Oh my! Could you imagine the possibilities?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rob, you run a great product. I just want to say it's not easy to do. I certainly couldn't do it, and being a promoter involves a lot of money, effort, and blood, sweat, and tears. So where can people follow you on social media? Where can people follow the legendary CNWEA on social media as well?
We have a Facebook page. That's what we have right now. Eventually, hopefully by November, we're looking at a webmaster. We're going to get a website launched, and we're also going to create a YouTube channel once we find someone who's good at the YouTube thing, because me and Louie aren't really the best with the YouTube thing. Maybe I'll get some pointers from Kenny Bowen, who's actually very good at the YouTube thing.
I could help you guys out with that as well. You never know.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I'm not technology savvy as much.
I hate how it advanced, honestly, just on a subtopic, technology is it's good and bad. It's to a certain extent, I'm good with my TV, I'm good with a PS2, and I'm good with a basic, flip phone. But nowadays, everything's just gotten, ridiculous. They have, these stupid things you can walk on with shoes, I forget what they're called, but it's these boards, I don't know. It's all fucked technology. It's crazy.
Yeah. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she thinks I'm really old because I'm older than the internet, and she knows all the YouTube things and all to make videos and all the TikTok and all the editing and stuff like that, and I don't know any of that, so she's always making fun of me for that. She's only 11, but she thinks she's a teenager already.
Yeah, well, that's great. I learned that stuff at 15, 16, so it looks like she's definitely on the right track in terms of mastering technology.
She lives on the iPad and any device she can get her hands on.
It just makes you wonder what's going to happen 20 years from now.
Oh, my 3-year-old already knows how to use the iPad.
Oh no, it's begun.
They're all more. Yes, and they're all more technology savvy than I am. I'm old school. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I still play my Super Nintendo and my NES, and the newest system I think I have is PS3. So I haven't upgraded yet. But I don't know. I'm an old school video game collector.
No, I remember the Super Nintendo. I used to have a babysitter, and we'd always play that thing, man. The worst game on it was Wheel of Fortune. That's the bad news. That one sucks. But I remember playing Super Mario Brothers. That's my favorite one of all time. Who can't go wrong with that, man? All the levels and going through it. It was fun, man.
And there's some great wrestling games in there. My favorite was WWF Raw for Super Nintendo. That was a great game.
I actually forgot about that one.
Yeah, and then of course the 64. Those are the greatest wrestling games of all time. No Mercy and
Day of Reckoning.
Day of Reckoning. Yeah, that's I think that's GameCube.
GameCube, yeah.
But they had there was a period for about 10 years where they were making the best wrestling game, but the 2K ones are, the graphics are better, but they're not as fun. And they have glitches and stuff, and just not as fun as the old school games, especially the old WrestleMania arcade games from the 80s and early 90s. Those are fun, like WrestleFest.
Yeah, that was a really, really fun game for sure, WrestleFest. I miss having that. I miss having the Nintendo GameCube and things like that. And with technology nowadays and people on their phones all the time, people don't have the time anymore to just sit there and play a good video game for 5 hours on the GameCube or do anything along those lines. It's just times have changed.
Well, that's one thing we're going to be doing at the CNWE we're gonna set up little booths and have little TVs up, and people can actually play the old wrestling games on the NES and the Super Nintendo and the 64 and the GameCube.
No, I love the 64 as well on the GameCube. The Nintendo 64, it's like that system is really hard to get right now.
Oh, it is?
It seems like harder now than ever, as of late.
Oh, I have like 4 of them.
Huh. Well, you actually might make some money off them because it seem like they seem a little harder to get. I haven't seen any anywhere.
Oh, it's amazing what you can sell your games for. I sold a 64. I sold it was Clay Fighter Sculptors Edition a couple of years ago to a gaming store for like $600.
Huh.
And I think I bought it like 5 years previous at like Game City for like $20.
So that's the thing. It's just like times are just, man, that's so rare. It's like remember the Wayne Gretzky rookie card? How much that is worth? It's like unbelievable.
It's worth big bucks now, I think, but comic books aren't worth anything right now. Not really.
Not anymore.
Not even hockey cards are worth that much. Some of them anymore.
Hockey cards, not really that much anymore. Like, they came up with the jersey cards, and then, like, they came up with, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and it's like, they're, like, I still like them, personally. I still think they're cool, because it's game used. I hang them up. I make it part of my set. I think it's fun, but, like, people just, it's not in demand anymore. No one's gonna buy a freaking $2 Joni Pickanin jersey card. It's just not in demand.
Nope. Yeah, I have all my cards from the 70s and 80s, and unfortunately, they're not worth anything.
Well, some are. Depends on
some
good
are, I
rookies.
guess. Well, I could
It's
ask.
all about rookies now. No base cards are worth like nothing, man.
Well, I could ask Danny Duggan or Curtis. They're collectors, and they all know the value and stuff. Maybe I might have a valuable card for all I know.
Yeah, Curtis buys off you, so if you have some valuables, he definitely does do that. First Row Collectibles, big shout out to them. Another great product, actually. I think they have a podcast as well, so be sure to check that out as well.
Yeah, I'm a regular client of his. I probably buy a package once a month from him, so I buy a lot of wrestling autographs and wrestling memorabilia from him. So big shout out to him there too. He's he's always good at getting packages really quickly and great quality.
Yeah, man, I gotta still send you my trading card and my sticker. We can't miss out on that.
And they also make great presents too. Like if you get an autograph and you put it in like a really expensive frame, that's a great present for a relative, for a birthday or Christmas, or if that's what I've been doing a lot lately. I've been giving lots of wrestling autographs, and my family seems to love it.
Yeah, same with me. I remember getting got a Scott Steiner autograph in person. I framed it. It's like a whole new world, man. You hang that up, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got my dad Jerry the King Lawler autograph. I think he'll love that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I certainly would, so I'm sure he would.
Yeah, he's an old school. Sorry.
Sorry, no, go ahead. You're talking about old school and Jerry Lawler. Yeah, he definitely is.
My dad's old school. He grew up in Calgary, so he actually went to all the old Stampede matches, like in Lethbridge and Red Deer, Lethbridge and Calgary, and way back in the day with Archie the Golden Stumper back in the 60s and 70s. So he saw like all the classics there. He remember seeing Bret Hart as a rookie back in the day.
Wow, that must have been an interesting experience. Like looking back now and wondering back in the day, did he feel like he was the next big thing, or he didn't realize that yet?
He always knew the Hearts were kind of destined for greatness, but yeah, he went back, like I think he started going like the early mid 60s to all the way to like the 70s. Like he used to go every weekend with his mom. Like they'd always drive down to Red Deer every Saturday night, or I think it was Monday night. I wasn't sure, but they went once a week for like 5 or 6 years straight. So I don't even know how many matches and cards he saw.
Yeah, that's definitely insane. That's for sure. Wrestling. It's like baseball. It's like a pastime that can never be forgotten, and that's what's going to happen coming up in February. Rob, I really appreciate the help and support, and I look forward to doing another one of these previews with you again soon.
Yeah, most definitely. And if you ever want some other guys to appear on your show that are going to be appearing for CWE, we'll let you know.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate the support, and I appreciate the partnership. You have a great night. Are you looking for cards for any occasion, whether that's weddings, birthday parties, or just straight out for fun? Well, check out mytradingcards.com and they can create any trading card for you. The official trading card of the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Do you remember Real Aid Media? Well, the creator of that has another solution for you. Check it out. This is an emergency kit and a home safety evaluation for free. This kit has 180 pieces, such as a blanket, light stick, flashlight, cold pack, burn cream, and much, much more. This company is giving them away free to qualified homeowners, as well as a complimentary home safety evaluation for advertising purposes. The link available here is surveymonkey.com/r/204B. That's surveymonkey.com/r/204B. Check it out now. Do you enjoy talking to your favorite wrestling superstars? Well, Jordan Garber now has an opportunity for you. For only $5.99, you get to have a 10 to 15 minute conversation with any of your favorite Jordan Garber Now interviewees. Send me a Facebook message for more information. Are you a wrestling fan? And do you like collecting wrestling merchandise? Well, Hot Shots Retro Rewind and Wrestling Collectibles is the place for you. They have t-shirts, action figures, DVDs, and autographs available. Check it out. Hot Shots Retro Rewind and Wrestling Collectibles on their public Facebook group. Are you that wrestling fan looking for that perfect television package to meet your needs? Well, Real Aid Media has the perfect option for you. With the Wrestling Box promo, you pay for the box for $199.95. After that, you're only paying $29.95 per month with no contracts and no obligations. Real Aid Media also provides marketing services operating in 5 countries. To book an appointment or to get your wrestling package, go to stevenbenzelock.bookify.com. That's Steven Benzelock at bookify.com. Check it out. Real Aid Media, providing great wrestling content for a cheap price. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you have all been waiting for, our main event interview, coming up next with none other than Chance Prophet, right here on the Jordan Garber Now podcast.
Newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
You heard them. Use promo code POWERSLAM now. Alright guys, we are back with the main event of the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and we are here with none other than the return. It's been 7 years in the making of Chance Prophet. Welcome to the show once again, my man. How are you?
I feel older every time I think about it, that it's been 7 years, because, I mean, I'm 21 years in wrestling, and sometimes I'll have people come up to me and just tell me, like, I watched you when I was a kid. And I'm just sitting there thinking, 7 years ago, Jordan was in college. correct?
7 years ago. Well, no, I'm actually. Yeah, well, no, it would have been like 17, 18 years old, just coming out of high school. Actually, you were one of the first
Wow.
big ones. Before you, it was you and the Honky Tonk Man for Wrestling World 247 on that same show. I actually remember that. That was my first big name interview, or you were on that first show, and you're a pretty big name at the time as well. So we got to thank you again for 7 years ago, and we got to thank you again now. But there were a lot of topics 7 years ago, since I was very new, we didn't discuss and cover. And that includes having one of the best trainers there is, and that's none other than Danny Ray. Can you kind of explain how that wild story came about?
Yeah, well, I was an amateur wrestler in high school, and a friend of mine, his uncle was a professional wrestler, and decided to take him under his wing, and he trained and worked with Rip Rogers and Gypsy Joe, Corsica Joe, as he was known back in that time. And so he asked me, "Hey man, I know you love pro wrestling. Would you like to be involved? My uncle's starting to train me, and I can show you some stuff." I said, "Sure." I was like, "Where are we going to train at?" And he said, "We've got this place in Pikeville, Kentucky, and we'll be able to do that, and we'll get on some shows, and it'll be great." So we did it for about 6 months, and it was horrible training, like injuries everywhere. It was crazy. Yeah.
What were your first few injuries?
I found out that I fractured a vertebrae in my neck, but it was about 6 months after the fact. And they were like, "Well, there's nothing you could really do anyway. It was just a hairline fracture." I'm like, "No, I broke my neck. We were in there doing it by ourselves, and like literally had little to no coaching. But then we were on some shows, and Danny Ray actually was in the crowd, and he knew a couple of the guys, and he came to the back, and we just finished this three-way ladder match and done a bunch of crazy stuff in there. And he walked by me, and he said, "Hey, young man, how are you doing?" I was like, "I'm doing fine." "Oh my gosh, Danny Ray!" Yeah.
Are you still there? Oh my god. Oh, what a mess.
Are we there?
Yeah, we are. I just said what a mess on the recording, though. That's okay. Let's. You know what? Mistakes happen here on live interviews, guys, and that's what happens here on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. We're not this is our third take, and I apologize for my technical issues there. We're going to continue this interview. My apologies. Anyways, going on about Danny Ray.
Yeah, he saw me do this crazy ladder match, and he walked up and said, "Hey kid, you got a nice hip toss." And I said, "Well, thanks. Well, what about this spot that I did off the ladder and this double rug beater we did?" He's like, "Yeah, you've got a nice hip toss. If you stop that crap, I'll take you under my ring. I'll train you for free. Just you have to cut out all this bull crap." I said, "Well, sure, I'll take you up." And he brought me on the road and introduced me to a bunch of really cool guys from NWA and Smoky Mountain Days and with ECW, still hanging around at that time. It was really, really cool.
Who were some of those guys, a few guys you interacted with from ECW and NWA, and how did you handle that situation, being green as grass and meeting guys that were, white chocolate? What was it like meeting people reach the elite at the beginning?
Well, we had Chris Hamrick and Steve Carino were becoming regulars at the time because of Ricky Morton's involvement. And Ricky Morton and Chris Hamrick went back to probably about 15, 20 years before that. And it was just surreal to be in there with a guy like Steve Carino, who had become like the new ace of Japan, and he had held the NWA World Championship. But he was just so down to earth and was willing to like help guys like me who were just starting out and give us advice on anything from selling to merchandise, you name it.
Awesome stuff. And, it all came down to, humble beginnings as well in 2002 for Extreme Maximum Championship Wrestling down there in your home state of West Virginia, working the likes of Chris Sterling, Chris Vega, Mark Matthews, Deacon Furious, guys like that. Who were those first few guys that you worked with that kind of gave you that big edge?
those guys were very, very hungry, but they had little to no training at all, which was really, really rough. We ended up at the first match I actually attended at XMCW. I was trying to get booked, and they said, "Well, we can't slide you in there because our guys have never worked with anybody like you, and we're not sure of how you were trained." And I was like, yeah, about that. And my trainer Danny Ray was booked on the card, and he's like, "If you don't book him,
If you don't book him, we're just waiting to hear back here from Chance Prophet, guys. In other news too, which you're going to discuss on the interview, Chance Prophet is known. You know, he's wrestled a lot of places. Definitely has quite the storybook in his career, wrestling in places like XMCW, which we just talked about. Oh, there he is right now. I think he's back. Are you back with us there, Chance?
let's try this. Does that work well?"
Yeah, man, that sounds a little bit better. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go with the car audio.
Let's go with the car audio. We were just talking actually while you were gone about XMCW just before you were going to go into that point where Danny Ray was booked on the show, and if you didn't book you, what would happen? What would be the outcome?
If they didn't book me, then he was going to walk out. And they looked at him and they said, "Well, our guys, we don't think they can actually handle what he can do, so we'll put him on next show." And Danny Ray kind of cussed a little bit, and then they put him. He said, "Fine, I'll do my match," and he did his three-way dance and left. He's like, "I'm never coming back here again. Never coming back here again." I was like, "Well, they booked me for the next show." He said, "Okay, we'll come back next show." And so I ended up working the next show, and they asked me to help start training their guys. And I was green as crap and shouldn't have been even doing it, but I ended up helping them.
But you know what? It's better than like nothing though. But you know, there's a lot of that comes around. You know, at least you were offered the position. There's a lot of wrestlers that feel like they're entitled to become a trainer after they've wrestled for 2 years. Say you've done it all. You know, you could train and get to know. You know, I totally don't see that. But like, if a struggling promotion, you know, needs that extra guidance, you don't even call yourself trainer. I guess training development. Who knows? But you know, an experience is an experience, and he's quite most certainly got that one working. Christopher Daniels on NWA TNA Explosion. Now, the question is not really about how the match was. The question was, what's it like, you know, seeing the hard work pay off, working for XMCW 1 year and then TNA the next? It's the beginning of TNA, the beginning of something big. And did you think it was going to be bigger than it was at the time?
They were so hungry. TNA was just, everybody had like, I know that the dirt sheets put it out there that it was discombobulated and there was a lot of backbiting, but everybody was working well together from what I saw. And the fact that we were getting even dark matches and explosion matches and getting to work with top tier talent, it was just mind blowing for me, coming from a little rural town in West Virginia and then wrestling on pay-per-view. It was really, really just out of this world, and everyone there was like working cohesively to my knowledge. So I was like, I can't wait to see where they go. And I thought that they were going to just blow up, but it ebbs and flows, and I don't know how it's
pretty much a lot of flows and pretty much a great experience, I can say, right? And I believe too, when and going on, guys, to our listeners here that are listening, Chance Prophet actually, like when it came down to that, that was at the Tennessee State Fairgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee. And when we looked at those shows there in Nashville, Tennessee, at the early days in 2002 and 2003, you know, watching it back on YouTube, I felt like, you know, this promotion has what it has. Like, this is the next big thing. And it really reached pretty close to surpassing and beating WWE within those next few years after. Chance, are you still with us? No, he's not with us still, but He did wrestle Christopher Daniels during that match, and he's back with us now. Welcome back there, Chance.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with the audio.
No worries. Hey, you know what? There used to be worse audio on Wrestling World 247, and we got. I don't really. I know as a technical standpoint, I should be concerned about the audio, but I'm just happy to get an interview with Chance Prophet here, and we can work around the kinks here each and every time. You were just talking about Christopher Daniels. I just wanted to transition into my next question. If you keep cutting out, that's fine. I'll find a way to cover that 2 minutes of or a few seconds of dead air. But when it comes to working those, you had a match for 2 minutes. Did that 2 minutes feel like when you were talking to Chris in the back? Was that 2 minutes, 20 minutes, or 200 minutes? It felt like.
They definitely made the most out of their time that was given. And even though we were, quote unquote, getting some enhancement time, they really treated us as if we were part of the team. And I really can't stress enough how well they took care of everybody. It was just a solid, cohesive unit down there.
Awesome stuff. And, going back in there in 2004, that's kind of like, say, 1 year up from 2003. Did you see a lot of massive improvements in the company, being an exact 1 year difference from that time?
Yeah, they kept adding quality talent, and it was the talent that had name recognition, but they were using them in a way that you felt that, well, if that would have happened in WCW, if that would have happened here when they were in WWF or WWE, then they would be at the top there. And like with Ron Killings as the NWA World Champion coming in around that time, it was just stuff that you looked at and was like, this makes perfect sense. Why didn't this happen there? So they made a lot of headway with some booking decisions that should have happened elsewhere, and I really thought that it was going to just pick up and blow up even bigger than it did.
No doubt about that. And you know what? It is still adding big names, and it still has a big, strong utilization right now, especially with a lot of those young guys that they do have signed. Now, let's talk about a company you have some great history with. I like Remix Pro Wrestling, man. I've always liked their stuff, and since 2010, for over almost 10 years now, you've been making some highlights for them. What were some good memories you had with the organization, and how did the relationship start?
The relationship started as the owners and the promoters were actually fans from back when I was with the NWA, and they would come out to the NWA Tri-State shows in Parkersburg. And they decided that they wanted to start doing these shows to benefit Humane Society, and it just snowballed from there.
So all proceeds, is there a certain proceeds of those tickets go to the Humane Society, or is it a certain percentage? How does that work?
Everything from the gate goes to the Humane Society.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm an animal lover and a pro wrestling lover. That kind of goes hand in hand as a promotion to support.
Yeah, they've really done a great deal for the Humane Society of Ohio Valley. I can't remember the exact total, but it's well over $27,000 over the past 10 years.
Oh wow, that's insane. That's definitely quite the thing that I feel like more pro wrestling should do. Even if it's like 10% of donations going to a charity of choice, I feel like it's very beneficial. But at the same time, as a promoter, you could say it's very hard as an independent wrestling company owner to operate a successful product and make proceeds go to charity. But to anyone that can do that, that's not easy to do. So you got to give that. It must be a non-profit promotion altogether, I'm assuming.
For the most part, yeah. They do make a little bit back off of DVD sales, but they put it right back into the next event. So they've really got their game together.
Wow, talk about a promotion to support. You got to support the ones that support those animals in need. Now, you also had, this promotion's been running around for a while, and you had some experience there. Let's talk about a few opponents you had there in Vicious Outcast Wrestling. Who are a few guys you could just point out that were went above and beyond with you out there?
Working with Thrash Justice, Matthew Justice, we had a short little program, but we got some really good mileage out of it. It would have been even better, but he ended up tearing something in his knee. I can't remember exactly what it was. But between him and with Jimmy Nuts and Facade, which Facade carried over from Remix, what we were just talking about, it was just some really, really good times, really good feuds, and a really, really hot crowd in Connellsville, Pennsylvania.
Who's just one wrestler? This question out of the blue. Who's just one wrestler that you could have like a solid, 20-minute match with and just not worry about it before going out there?
Probably Matt Sigmund. One of the
Nice.
Siggy's good. We go back probably at least 16, 17 years. But yeah, I could go out there with Sigmund and just completely tear it up. Do the same thing with Sam Adonis. We just did it 2 weeks ago in Charleston, West Virginia.
Man, Sam Adonis is awesome too, but I've had some personal road trip stories with Sigmund. Just not and after party stories with him being here in Winnipeg for the CWE. I think I traveled with him to Sewers, Manitoba too, on those cold Canadian roads. And man, that guy is one of the nicest guys, man, you'll ever meet. And not just that, you could say that about any guy. That guy was the nicest guy ever. It doesn't mean anything. The one thing is, though, is you could see that guy cares. That's all I can say. That guy fucking, excuse my language, that guy cares. Just by looking at him, that he loves this sport, he loves this business, and he just wants to entertain. Look at the crowd and probably the buddies around him, too. He's such a great guy. Were there some good promotions that you had some matches with him at that really stuck out?
We had in AML, I'm pretty sure we tangled a little bit in AML down in North Carolina, but I'm trying to think of all the promotions that we've worked. OCW out of Kentucky. It was Ohio Championship Wrestling. And we had a couple of different tag matches against him. It was myself and Shane Douglas versus him and his tag partner, Elliot. And we literally, I'm pretty sure, broke a couple of state laws within the first few minutes because he got hard way on a lockup, of all things. He's got a rather sizable cranium, and I'm pretty sure he had butted me in the brow, and he got color. And in Kentucky, you're supposed to take it home in like 3 minutes if there's any instance of blood. Yeah.
That's crazy. I was actually going to ask about the Kentucky wrestling scene. From someone, from a journalist and podcaster from Winnipeg, Manitoba, we have a lot of listeners here in the Kentucky area, especially around the Louisville area, as well as, what was the other area? Pikeville, actually. It's Louisville and Pikeville. Are top markets listening to from in Kentucky. I'm not going to go on about this because my friends just told me that no one wants to hear about my numbers and all of that. But Kentucky... I know, it was a big fight over that, and I got mad. It was ridiculous. But Kentucky is a win for our podcast. What's the scene like over there as a whole, as a worker?
It's really, really, it's within 20 minutes, you can have some of the best old school wrestling, and then you'll go down the road, and it'll be a completely new school, smart crowd that just eats up everything that you feed them. Whereas the old school crowd, which is weird because up in West Virginia it's backwards. The old school crowd will eat anything that you feed them, and the new school crowd will sit there on their hands. In Kentucky, it's pretty much backwards. If you go out and try to work a new school style, the old school fans will sit on their hands and not get into it at all. And until you feed them what they want, they will not give any sort of reaction at all. So their scene is really, really diverse, especially with OVW being such a heavy influence in the area. The whole state, out of the whole state, I think, up until recently, they were the only approved training facility in Kentucky. I had one back in 2005, and I was the only other approved training facility in Kentucky, so it was really, really weird.
Yeah, that is weird. Because in Canada, it's usually like mixed. Like, we don't really focus a lot on one certain style. Like, we'll have it, but like we have a lot. It's all combined. Whether you'll see in a match, you'll see old school lucha and working the crowd. and in Winnipeg, everyone pretty much does eat it up. But I've worked in front of some bad crowds. Actually, like I can't say that's a wrong statement. I've reffed. Work means wrestle. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna get myself in trouble on this thing. Don't show this to your locker room. You know, all your veterans. You're one of the nice ones, man. I don't want to get beat up or anything. But what was I saying? I remember as a referee, we did the Tony Condello Northern Death Tour. It was like the last show, and the crowd was so dead. We were all so tired. You know, what do you do in a situation like that as a monster hero? You're the world champion, but the crowd isn't buying what you're feeding them. Like, as a heel, from like a wrestler to like aspiring wrestler and wrestlers that listen to this program, how would you handle a situation like that? Like, how do you handle a dead crowd?
If the crowd's dead, it's your job to work to whatever point you have to get to elicit at least a response. And if they're not biting what you're giving them, then it's your job to find what they will respond to. That doesn't mean you put yourself at your life's danger, but you definitely, if they're not biting, Indiana's a similar crowd. I recall one time in, I'm trying to think, Shepherdtown, India, for Division I. The crowd literally, I came out, they didn't know how to take me because my gimmick, I look like a monster, and there was no backstory. It was just me versus their champion. And finally, one guy out of the middle of the silence said, "What the hell are you?" And my opponent looks at him and said, "Are you an idiot? Look at him. He's a freaking demon." So then they start to clap with the chant, "Freaking demon."
And there you go. You got some heat there.
And then the match went as planned, and they reacted well.
It's all those little things, you know. The guys we worked with, like, yeah, they had some great characters, but it's really hard to find that innovative one. So I just remember they made me stand up on the ropes for the first time, and I was like, I don't even know how to fucking stand. I'm so green. I don't even know how to do that, man. So like I stand up on the ropes, and somehow, ta-da, it worked. I was like, oh wow, the ref should never have attention paid to them. I feel like this is very wrong, but at least we bought the crowd. So I didn't really. That's a hard scenario as a ref, because the ref's job is to show their authority and to be the ref. So like, I don't know, like kind of looking back, what would you have done? Would you have, if you were that ref, would you have stood on the ropes, or would you kind of, you know, leave it to the workers to just figure it out on their own?
Well, one of the good things about my training, one of the good things that I did whenever I was training with Danny Ray is he made me learn how to be a referee. So the same thing happened to me with Cuban Assassin #2. His father was really big in Stampede, so he tried to honor that legacy and carry himself as a veteran, and he got in there and said, our ref didn't show, we need somebody to ref. Joe, you're in. So I got in there, was working with him, and he tried to get me involved in the match more than I wanted to be. And I said, what do you want me to do on the finish? And he said, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a hold, and you give the count, and you're not going to stop your count. You're going to keep on counting, and then you're going to disqualify me. And then when I don't break the hold, I want you to grab me by the head and pull my hair. And I was like, I'm not supposed to do that, sir. I'm a referee. I'll just disqualify you and leave. He's like, no, I want you to grab my hair. And then when I don't break the hold again, I want you to pull my hair out. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this, sir. I think we're going to have to find someone else. He said, no, you'll do it, damn it. And I said, okay, sir, I'll do it. And I did exactly what he told me to do.
I remember that, like, as a referee, like, I just have so many funny stories, like, especially for my first time being green and taking bumps for the first time. Like, I remember, like, all right, you're going to take a bump. It's just a clothesline, but, like, going through your mind or something, it's like, oh, for fuck's sakes, you know, it's going to go wrong. This guy's a mean, grizzled vet. Here we go. And then, like, once it's over with, you know, it's like the best feeling in the world. I go to the back and, like, I just say, like, that was amazing. that was the best, man. Thank you so much, sir. We should do it again. It's like, I just gotta shut the fuck up. Like, just take it and go. Like, yeah, just be lucky.
It's like, it's a bump, kid. Go.
It's a bump. Move on. You don't need to go in the back and say, thank you, it was a pleasure. Like, fuck off. Like, it doesn't. That was my first few mistakes. But, like, as a kid, I still kind of think it's a good thing because, you know, you're still giving the respect to the people that you worked with. But, yeah, it was definitely some really good times. And it's good that wrestling's thriving in West Virginia and Kentucky as well. But let's talk about America's Most Liked Wrestling. You know, you had some matches with Sigmund there. You know, they even have some TV tapings, and you worked for them 2 times in 2016 and 4 times in 2015. So if you could, you know, share a few good matches or maybe even good experiences down there about the crowds, because I know the crowds in North Carolina, especially in High Point and Winston-Salem, are pretty much the ones that are some of the best. So how was that?
Yeah. Super, super hot crowds, super invested in anything, any storyline that you could put legs on. And they invested in me and Damian Wayne, which revived a
Barroom
an
Brawl.
NWA. Yeah. And we tore that place down. Not long after that, they stopped running shows there because we packed it out. And the first match that Damian Wayne and I had for AML was the main event on that evening, and unbeknownst to me, he went to go post me into a speaker near the stage, and I put on the brakes, but he didn't, and it split me wide open, so I bled buckets, and the promoter just didn't know what to do. Tracy Myers was looking at me like I was some crazed animal, and he threw the match out, stopped it, and I grabbed the mic. I said, "You don't know what you brought here. You don't know what kind of animal you brought. So you bring this dog, you bring him to fight, you're liable to get bit yourself." And we went from there and fed into the barroom brawl. And then it was just a wild, wild time. And then when they moved on to High Point from Winston-Salem, had some really good matches with some upcoming talent like Darius Lockhart. And
Jackson
then
Riker.
Yes, Jackson Riker.
I remember that one. I watched that on YouTube, the Carolina Street fight. That was the night before, wasn't it, Damian Wayne?
Yeah, really good times with Jackson. We've been all over. I've fought with him up in New Jersey. I've fought with him in Ohio. Fought with him in West Virginia. All over the place. In North Carolina, we did it. We did it there too.
This is a messed up question. Like I asked this because I love being on the road, and I really miss it, man. It was this whole virus. It really makes you miss it more than ever looking back upon things. But where are the best places to, like, really off topic, but for road trips to, like, get food or, like, go? Where were some good scenic routes that you had? You know, traveling to different promotions, and not just the scene itself, but, you know, the availability of restaurants, good food, you know, gas stations that gave you a good deal. What were some good places that you kind of traveled through that kind of lasted an impression aside from wrestling?
We always tried to find a Sheetz or a Wawa anywhere we could find. Sheetz literally was like your mom being on the road with you because you could get anything you want at any hour. And you just get filled up, and then you get your food and go on the road. But I recall one of my favorite stops ever was, I'm trying to think of the diner's name. It was up in Massachusetts for Mike Sparta, which was a horror story of a road trip. We ended up stopping at some diner off of, I can't even tell you the route, the state route that we were on. But we were in the middle of a blizzard, and unbeknownst to us, because we were just talking about matches and talking about stuff we wanted to do the next day, the highway was shut down, and we pulled off at a diner that we saw, and it had some of the best pie ever. And we ended up having to spend the night there and finding a budget inn to rest in, and we slept for about 3 hours and got back on the road. To drive 12 hours back to West Virginia.
And then wait, probably.
Yeah, and wait for everything else to
I
just.
love that part of the business. It's so funny because, like, just looking back, everyone's like all motivated, like, let's go, we gotta get there, we gotta get there. Hey, don't fuck around, we gotta get there. You guys get there. It's like, oh, the promoter's not there yet. Oh, do you know where Tom is? Oh, yeah, he'll be there in 2 hours.
Yeah, call time's 1 o'clock. Where's the promoter at? Oh, he'll be here at 4.
That was all part of the Northern Tour. It was so much fun doing that, actually. Well, actually want to ask that question. I don't know if you did any tours or anything, but I remember you did tours, but I don't know when the last one you did was. But I did the Northern Death Tour in last February. I don't know if I could survive it again. It was hard, and I was mentally ready at the time, and I had more weight on me. But
Yeah.
crazy tour, man. You know, all that stuff we were just talking about happened, and it was definitely one of the hardest experiences ever. What were some of your tour experiences? Did you ever go on tour and have some good times and just wrestle like 5-star matches every night, or was there just lots of events down there in West Virginia that you traveled to each weekend too?
We were working 3 to 4 days a week here. Probably, I would say, around the same time that I was starting to work with TNA.
Nice.
So, but I made it a point to make sure that I got out of the state. So I would wrestle 2 to 3 nights here to get enough money to sustain me to take a booking up in Philadelphia and wrestle for Pro Wrestling Unplugged up there. Or there was an HWA that wasn't Heartland. It was like Hardcore Wrestling Association. But met a lot of good people, Metal Maniac and Supremely Great, a bunch of WXW guys. Had really, really great times, but I was still wrestling 3 to 4 days a week on the regular. But it made a good loop because we would hit Bluefield, Beckley, come back towards Huntington, and then maybe get an Ohio booking out in Chillicothe for Mad Pro Wrestling, or if War Wrestling picked up later on, they picked me up and did some stuff with Crimson as the Dead Wrestling Society, and we made good tours there. They always had like 2 to 3 days in a row state fairs, and then a big house show where they just packed out 1,200, 1,500 people on the regular. So really fun times.
No, definitely. You know, it's always good to. You know, I just like to look back. You know, I imagine being a wrestler. Imagine of nostalgia, if that's the word that you feel, you know, looking back. But sometimes you can't look back all the time. You just got to keep on looking forward. And you've definitely been doing that as well the last year, wrestling for Real Shoot Wrestling. That's pretty interesting since this is a shoot interview. IWA East Coast and Mega Pro Wrestling and the AIWF, which is actually a really good system that they got running as well. And then this year, you recently did some stuff for Big Time Wrestling, and that was down there in Wayne, West Virginia, and that was in March. So what were those last 2 years like for you, and what are some goals? Because I definitely know that there's a lot left in the tank of a Chance Profit. So do you want to go to Japan? Because I see Japan, but what do you see?
I'd love to get to Japan, and I'd love to go to Great Britain. The past couple of years has been kind of like my maintenance phase for life. I found out that I had 0 ACL or PCL for the past 22 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So my whole career I went without that because of a misdiagnosed torn meniscus when I was 17 years old. So when I was 17, I tore my meniscus in amateur wrestling. It's what they told me that happened, but actually I literally destroyed, pulverized everything in there. So I had to go and get a checkup because my knee buckled and it felt like it just didn't go back in. So they went and checked my leg out and found out that my ACL was gone, my PCL was gone, and my meniscus was very, very much harmed from taking the brunt of all the impact. So I had ACL, PCL replacement last year, and it's been about 2 weeks ago, I had a scope done on my right knee to repair a torn meniscus, which was actually that was all there was just a textbook tear repair in there. So the past 2 years have been a little bit frustrating because I've had to recover come back, and then have a little bit of a hiccup and start back up again. But the matches have and the events have been really good, and I've actually started up our pro wrestling school and tied in with IWA East Coast called the Power Slam Academy, and we've got some really hungry students. It's allowed me to pour back in and keep my fire burning bright too. So East Coast is my home right now. And
Is
we
that
just
your
had a
baby,
really,
or is someone else running that?
I may have the book there, but we'll just leave that up to
Because,
everyone to
like,
speculate on.
when COVID's done and COVID's gone, I'm open to training as a referee and future wrestler at many places. And if once those borders are open, I can definitely see that being in my sightline for the future. That's for sure. So how's that transition though? Because I remember, on the tour that I was on, I worked closely with a trainer who helped me every day. Prepare for battle royal spots and help me take some chops and just the basic rolls and stuff like that. And like he felt like a true coach. And when you have that mentor with someone, like you have that connection. And it's really important to build that with a wrestling veteran and pick a mentor that you have. And I know for a fact that a lot of those young guys are going to look up to you right away and pick you, and they're going to get some of the best advice they can get because it's better. Like we were talking about this earlier, I'd rather be trained by someone who's wrestled in this business for 20 years or more than someone who wrestled 6 months and thought he knows everything, and he wants to be a trainer. And one thing is, if you think you know everything in this business, just go, because you don't know everything. I can be 80 years old. Ric Flair doesn't know everything even. Maybe I won't say that, but like, if you think you know everything about this business, like, get out. Like, I don't know anything, but that's the cool part, because I'm learning, right?
Yeah. And it's ever evolving. I mean, the business, it always relies on the basics, but it's ever evolving. And everything old is new again, and everybody says that. So when you see all these high impact, crazy matches, but then on the same card, you'll see a guy working a quote unquote Memphis style match, an old school match, and he gets as big of a pop as the guy that did a 630. It's really refreshing. It's really refreshing to be a part of both sides of that, to be able to play to the guys that want to work the new school style and be able to educate them on why they need to add psychology to their new school style, but be able to train them in an old school way to where that doesn't slow them down. Because if you look back at the quote unquote old school stuff, they were the grappling catch-can matches were slow and grueling, but there were the Antonio Roccas that were moving at a high pace, the Mil Mascaras, and it's really, really awesome to pour that out and to see and plant seeds when you start to see, well, this guy could really work a Will Ospreay style, but I want him to be able to have a career that lasts longer than 4 years before he blows both knees out and has to redevelop himself. I like to help people avoid the mistakes that I made, especially when I first started out. Those first 6 months before Danny Ray got a hold of me, I see a lot of guys repeating those mistakes, and I like to be the guy that can just stop somebody for a second, re-educate them, not make them feel like they're a fool, but to see that potential and grow that potential. So that's really, really awesome.
No, that's just it too. And I was talking about this with I think I lost my train of thought, but I was talking about this with Al Snow, and what we were talking about was we were just talking about that, and it's like we were just saying on the show, do you really want it, and how much do you want it, and how much are you gonna have to go through to get it? So
yeah.
But what Al Snow also talked about, this is a fun part of the interview. We probably have about 5-10 minutes left. No rush or anything to finish things up. I always like to ask my veteran wrestlers, not the new guys as much as the veterans, this question. I have a TV in front of me right now. I have all the ability I have to study tape right now, right after this interview, as a matter of fact. What is on your list for tapes to watch tonight? Because last time when Al Snow said something for me to watch, he told me to watch the amazing crowd reactions from WCCW in 83 to 85, which were amazing. They'd pop over a simple body slam. Remember that?
Yeah.
Body slam.
Yeah.
Wah! Punch. Even one punch. It's crazy. It's like some places you see that, but not as much anymore. But
Right.
what's on your? What do you recommend me watch, man? Like from a trainer to like student right now, what would you recommend someone like myself watch?
I kind of hit it from every aspect. I have a lot of my guys watch Smoky Mountain for those same reasons. Smoky Mountain had some insane reactions, and I'll have them watch in the same week. I'll say, okay, go watch New Japan, the G1 Climax that just came out. I want you to see what uh, Kota Ibushi did and how he made it make sense. And then I want you to find a way to apply that to a crowd, because we're in that same vein of a Smoky Mountain, because they literally hit us on the loop.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to pop a crowd, use a harder hitting style when it calls for it, but also be able to be smart enough to say, okay, this is a crowd of 150 as opposed to a 1,500 to 3,000 crowd. I need to tone it back a bit, but I need to still give them their money's worth. How do I save my body yet tell a really awesome story? And it's really, 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 really good to watch both aspects and glean from the masters that really made it. Because one of my mentors is Tom Pritchard, and you don't get much better than Tom Pritchard.
No.
His track record for producing talent, I mean, just look at The Rock, and that's
It's untoppable.
top of it. Yeah. So when Tom Pritchard tells you, study the old school tape, but make sure that you don't neglect what's going on now, because there's no one right way to do it. There are solid foundations that everyone has to build upon, but there's no one right way that is set in stone that says this is how pro wrestling has to be. So if you can be that type of person that can be a hybrid of an old school wrestler with some Memphis character, world class character, and be able to do those spots like the New Japan crowd eats up and shows so much respect for, then you're going to be someone that can be around for 10, 15, 20 years.
Mixing in the old with the new a little bit there, pretty much.
Right.
No, that's awesome, man.
You're literally indispensable to any promotion you work for, because they can put you anywhere on the card with anybody.
That's some awesome stuff. Wrestling in such a great territory like West Virginia, wrestling around all there, we always like to do a top 3 on the podcast. Top 3, we talked about good matches, we talked about good chemistry. How about 3 guys? We mentioned Sigmund already, so we'll just add him as our bonus on the top 3. Who are just some 3 guys that were just good to deal with? Just some good dudes, man, that you had a good time with in the business for a long time.
Number 1, Jason Kincaid. The
Awesome
gift is
guy.
amazing. He's awesome just to talk to, but his talent is literally limitless, and he's constantly just coming up with new ways to do things that will just blow you away. He if he could live in a wrestling ring, he probably would, and he would be perfectly content.
He breathes it. He sleeps it.
Yes, 100%. Another one would be, I would say, Sam Adonis. Not just because we just worked, but because we worked and had a 10-year lapse between the last time we had wrestled, and we picked up like we had been wrestling every night for the past 10 years. And he's that good, and he's so talented, and so he's networked himself into the right places to where he's not signed by a quote unquote major company, but he's made himself a household name in countries outside of the United States.
Not easy to do.
No.
Not at all.
And number 3, I would have to go with I'm going to put Timmy Lou Ratton out there with
From
the
the,
Gym Nasty Boys.
Yeah, I interviewed him before too. Wow, it looks like we talked to a familiar kind of like the guys I interviewed are a lot of guys you're friends with, so that's kind of cool how we I have a good idea of how amazing those connections and friendships could be. Not friendships, I've interviewed them, but like I know what you mean. They're just great guys, all of them, and great talents as well.
Right. And Timmy Lou's about to. They're still doing their tag team, but he's pursuing more independent, solo-based stuff, and I really think he's going to break out within the next year.
Definitely. I feel like that has a big chance as well. And Chance, you've been absolutely awesome to take your time here. And you know what? At the beginning, we had a little bit of a rocky start. We've been cutting in on and off, but we were able to tell some great stories to our wonderful audience, which a lot of people listen to in West Virginia. So we're going to get some more West Virginia guys on in the future because I just love the scene out there. When this whole COVID thing comes out, I want to go out there. I want to gain some weight. I want to referee again out there. I think it would be absolutely awesome. And I just want to train as well and continue to learn this amazing sport and craft. And people like you, man, like I like this. I want to say this before I get off the air because, a lot of people ask, like, Jordan Garber's back and forth with his passion on wrestling. Like, it goes up and down. And, like, a lot of people ask, where are you getting all this passion from? It's from guys like Chance Prophet, man. It's from guys like Danny Duggan. It's from guys like Dan Severn and Al Snow that explain it to the point where it makes me bring back so many memories and just love this. It makes you look deep inside and say, man, you know what? I love pro wrestling, and I made a lot of mistakes before, like caring about the numbers and caring about the press. I'm just caring about having a good interview and as a reffing a good match and just loving this business. And I want to thank you, Chance, for rejuvenating that passion in me.
I appreciate even taking the time to talk to me. It does the years well to be remembered and to be able to talk and help rekindle that with anybody, because I mean at the root of everything, our love for pro wrestling is what brought us to either continue watching it or to continue participating in it for however long we've done it. I've been a fan since I was 6 years old with my grandpa.
And once again, you deserve that thank you for the 20. It's been 20. How many years now have you been in the business officially as a worker?
As a worker, 21.
21
Counting training,
years.
22. Yeah.
So let's say over 21 years, because the podcasting and referee stuff, that still kind of counts and all those things. It does count. So over 21 years of blood, sweat, and tears you gave to not just me, but audiences everywhere you've performed and on TV. I want to thank you, man. I feel like more people should be letting wrestlers know how much they appreciate the veterans who gave so much memories to watching this business, because now, because of you, I can go back and watch some classic Chance Prophet matches from AML or any other promotion out there.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thanks for being on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Wow, what a great interview with none other than Chance Prophet. This show, I just love doing it each and every week, and I cannot wait to be back again next Friday with another great episode of the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Thanks for listening, and please, please, please stay safe out there. I really mean it. Please stay safe out there. Tough times, everybody, but they can all definitely be overcome with loving your family, friends, staying safe, and just doing what you love to do within respect of social distancing or whatever you love to do, whether that's watching TV, listening to the Jordan Garber Now podcast, making your own podcast, doing whatever you love to do and enjoy. Please do it, and make sure your family is safe and healthy as well as you guys. Take it easy, and please, guys, all the best.